Hello, and welcome to my podcast, where the dark corners are. Hello. I am Vina, and I am your Dark Travels hostess. Tonight, I'm here with husband Jeff,
Hi.
and we're going to talk about, I kind of think, a fun topic. A funaroonie topic. So, when I do kind of like topic research, I kind of scour here, scour there. I look at some of the Facebook posts from the various websites or Facebook sites that I have. You know, there's like a bunch of paranormal ones, strange and unusual ones, ghosts related. But recently I saw a video clip of a UFO sighting that looked really like, wow, really amazing. Now, when I went back to do some research on it, you know, of course, you got your skeptics saying it's a weather balloon again. It's funny how it's always a fucking weather balloon. I mean, how many weather balloons are there?
I don't know. Apparently there's a lot.
Apparently.
Was it a Chinese weather balloon?
Well, this was in Colombia. So while it's possible, the probability is not as high. Probably. So it brings me to the topic of UFOs. What is a UFO? Where did that come from? Well, this term, UFO, which means unidentified flying object, was coined by a gentleman by the name of Captain Edward Rappel. Important. Why is this guy like the...
I don't know, but I think you're going to tell me.
I am. He's important because he was actually in charge of a project called the Blue Book Project. And at the time when this project was in operation, and who's to say it's not, because, you know, the United States government is not necessarily forthcoming with a lot of things, but it was the United States Air Force official investigation into UFOs. So they came up, they were like, we need a name. We don't know what it is. We can't identify it. It's flying. It's an object. So UFO. Bam. I just did it. So for those who don't know what Project Blue Book was, that was actually the code name for the United States Air Force to study these unidentified flying objects. And again, it's the United States Air Force that's doing it. And this project was operational from March 1952 to supposedly December 17th, 1969. Today, thanks to the release of all of the military videos, the United States government has now acknowledged that there are these aerial things floating around. Instead of calling them UFOs, they have decided to call it a UAP, an unidentified aerial phenomena. I don't understand why they got to change shit, but okay. Now, I know we've touched on this. What are your thoughts on aliens? And
I think that aliens in particular are real. Probably not like what most people think of when they think of the aliens, the big bug-eyed freakazoid looking face thing. That's probably not what they look like, but it's a big universe out there. I don't think we're the only living things around.
now, believe it or not, Chile is the country that claims the most UFO sightings. And I kind of go, about it, and I kind of go, about it, simply because Chile is a very narrow country. but it is also a very long and narrow country. And the other thing is that Chile is on the coast of South America. And the thing is that I am a firm believer that alien spacecrafts have the capacity to be submerged and exist in water. There have been ample instances where witnesses have said, I saw it going to Lake Michigan, or I saw it coming out, like especially in like Lake Superior, Lake Michigan area. And even in I don't remember if you recall or heard, but in one of the episodes that we kind of did collectively, the panda, his example was, this guy was out fishing with his son, and, there was the scenario over water. But also, I mean, and kind of part of what kind of brought this topic kind of to the head of the line in terms of ideas. In the New York episode, there was an instance of a UFO sighting on the Brooklyn Bridge or Brooklyn Bridge area, where a woman who lived in New York said, I was abducted. And a prominent politician at 3:30 in the morning had said, I saw this UFO over the Brooklyn Bridge. So, and that, I mean, to me, I can kind of see the lights being attractive, but if they were trying to remain incognito and or be coy, New York City is the last place they should be hanging out. However, having said this, so a little bit of history, because today we're gonna talk about celebrities who have claimed to have seen UFOs, and we're gonna do a little bit of history and a little bit of facts, so a little bit of mixture. So, like I said, Chile is the country that says we have the most sightings. Now, the earliest recording, and of course, like nowadays, every sighting is controversial, but the earliest is controversial as well. In 1440 BC, in Egypt, Lower Egypt, according to Tully Piperius, and he's, Piperius mean paper, so he's writing it down. He's claiming that there were fiery discs in the sky. And again, during the Egyptians' times, we consider, well, how authentic is that? Because we know them to have created the hieroglyphics, not necessarily papyrus, which is paper. So even in the beginning, UFO sightings have literally been controversial. So that brings us to 18 BC. This recording actually has a little bit more credence. We're talking Rome, Italy. The recorder was a gentleman by the name of Livy. Livy was a Roman historian. He was well known to document the ins and outs and the comings and goings of the Roman Empire of his time. And he writes, and I'm quoting him, phantom ships that have been seen gleaming in the sky. And he called them ships in the sky. So that's 18 BC, so 18 years before the birth of Christ. Titus Livius, Livy for short, that was his nickname.
He was like a journalist?
A historian.
A historian. And
it is said that the earliest UFO picture that had ever been taken was in 1870, and it was on Mount Washington in the state of New Mexico. Now, the other reason why I kind of hem and haw about Chile taking the claim of having the most UFO sightings, it is something of a thought that in colder climates is when people tend to see the most UFO activity. In Chile, even though it's below the equator, I mean, it's still pretty warm over there. So, since, from as best as we can tell, for sure, without controversy, 18 BC, people have been claiming to see UFOs. In fact, a recent survey finds that 80 million Americans, and we're talking, roughly 36% of the population, believe that UAPs or UFOs are real. And 1 in 10 of those who took the survey say that they have personally witnessed an alien spaceship. Now, I personally have never seen anything I would definitely say, oh my God, that's a UFO. I've seen weird shit in the night sky. I've seen weird weather patterns, but nothing that's ever struck me as a definite UFO. And, we travel considerably.
Yep.
Now, the recent video, though, was from a pilot from Colombia, a gentleman who took out his phone like everybody else, and he shot it supposedly zooming around his aircraft. But this is just one of all, ever since they put cameras on our telephones or our cell phones, just the whole world is watching. But before that was even a thought, before cell phones were even a thought, even presidents. So let's talk about the celebrities. Before cell phones were even a thought, future President Jimmy Carter, in October 1969, he was outside. He was waiting for a Lion Club meeting in Leary, Georgia. It was about 7:30 when he spotted what he would, and I'm quoting, what he call the darndest thing I've ever seen in the sky. Now, he wasn't alone when this object was seen. There were somewhere between 10 to 12 people. And the people who witnessed it said it was very bright, changing colors, about the size of the moon. And according to Jimmy, the object hovered about 30 degrees above the horizon and moved towards the earth and away before disappearing into the distance. He even told a reporter about this. And on September 18th, 1973, I'm not even born, he reports this incident to the International UFO Bureau. And of course, when he goes to campaign...
Wait. You said International UFO Bureau.
Yeah.
So now that's a thing?
That was something back then. I don't know if it's a thing now. And of course, he gets questioned. His opponent tries to mock him during the presidential campaign in 1976. And while I couldn't tell you what kind of president Carter was, because again, I wasn't around. I can say, the man was still building homes for Habitat for Humanity in his 90s. And he did Bible classes, and not that religious people are necessarily the epitome of goodness. I think a lot of the things that I've seen President Carter or former President Carter do in his post-presidential years does actually suggest he was a pretty decent guy. President, I don't know. I do not have experience in that. But he is not alone. Another president who has claimed to have seen a UFO, and this was before he was president. He was actually governor of California, former President Ronald Reagan. He said that, I was looking out the window and I saw this white light. It was zigzagging around. I went up to the pilot and I said, have you ever seen anything like that? The pilot was shocked and said nope. And he gives a speech to the United Nations in 1978 confirming or explaining this experience. Now, we know that we've sent a few guys to the moon. Some guys.
If you believe that.
Okay. Do you know who Buzz Aldrin is?
Yeah, he was one of them that supposedly went
Correct.
to the moon.
Well, I mean, that's the whole topic today. So, Buzz was the second gentleman to walk on the moon, American. And while on his way to the moon, while he was putting along, he looks out the window during Apollo 11 mission, and he and Neil, good old Armstrong, look out and they see an object that they absolutely do not recognize. It's unidentifiable. Okay? And they're like, what is that? We don't know. We don't know. And when he comes back home to Earth, he will turn around and he will advocate for research into the possibility of extraterrestrials and UFOs and things of that nature. And in fact, he ends up writing a book on the subject. So he's just like, hey, I have been to space, and I'm telling you, there's shit out there that I can identify. Now, back here on the planet, numerous. And the other thing is that kind of surprised me is the variety of the celebrities. So let's delve into that. The current pop artist Demi Lovato. In fact, she claims that while she was out in the desert at Joshua Tree, she saw a blue orb that was about 50 feet away, maybe less, and it was kind of, and I'm quoting, and it was kind of like floating above the ground, just like 10 or 15 feet, and it was kind of keeping its distance from me. And she would go on to say that this moment was beautiful and reality changing. And in fact, she now hosts an alien hunting series on Peacock because she believes that we're not alone. Russell Crowe, the guy from Australia, he was at his office and he saw something out the window, and he took out his camera, and he says, and I'm quoting, that he saw an unidentified floating object out in like the bay of his office. David Bowie, Mr. Ziggy Stardust, he claims to have seen UFOs numerous times. And in fact, he's like, they're in Britain all the time. I'm just used to them now, because believe it or not, Britain is one of the most highest recorded UFO sightings.
I thought you said Chile was.
One of the most.
Oh, one of them. Okay.
Britain is. And that it's pretty much an everyday, every night occurrence. In fact, for those who keep track, we know that a lot of crop circles tend to happen in Britain.
Yes.
Sammy Hagar. You know who Sammy Hagar is, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
He says in his book that aliens have invaded his brain one night and transmitted something into his mind.
That's a little far out there. Don't know if I believe that.
Okay, well here's one that goes even further. John Lennon. You remember who he is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, he claims that the aliens confronted him at his New York apartment in the 70s, and that the beings had some sort of psychic control over him and basically were able to control his functioning.
It's called drugs.
Because they were trying to gain access to his apartment, and he had to fight them off. But Kurt Russell, who I think highly of.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, Mr. Russell, we are all waiting for a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes. Yes, we are.
It's a fabulous movie.
Probably one of my favorites.
Either way, in 1997 during the Phoenix Light phenomenon. You remember how thousands of people were like, you can the lights were in the shape of a V in the night sky, not only in Arizona but in Mexico as well as Nevada. He says he was flying because he's a pilot apparently. And as he was flying, he saw the UFOs. He even pointed them out to his son who was in the plane with him. So he saw what he believed to be multiple UFOs because there were several lights.
Yeah.
Another one. Now, a pop artist / actor, Post Malone, whose song Circles I actually kind of enjoy. He says that his first UFO sighting was when he was 16. And this actually happened in New York. He says, and I quote, "I was looking out the window with my cousin, and it's just a light that just stays there and then just fucking goes off. I mean, you can't explain it." He also explained that in Tarzana, Los Angeles, describing a force field-like object disappearing into the sky. And that was another sighting. So he seen like a couple of UFOs in various places. That time was California. The first time was New York. Now, even Nick Jonas, who you would know as one of the Jonas Brothers.
Oh, yay.
But I super liked him in Jumanji, too.
He was in that?
Mm-hmm.
Which one was he?
He was the one that had been stuck in the game for like 20 years. His family fell apart because he just disappeared on the family. When he was 14, whilst playing basketball with some friends, he sees 3 flying saucers. And he said that he looked it up, and sure enough, they were 3 identical sightings in other states. And from that moment on, he was a believer.
Interesting.
Even Shaquille O'Neal. He was on a double date in 1997. Whilst in Madera, California. I keep saying California. We'll get to the reason why in a minute. And he swears he saw a flying saucer come down with all the lights, and it was spinning, and then it took off. I'm quoting him. And he actually told this to Jimmy Kimmel, you know, the guy who does the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and I quote, "We all looked at each other, and it was like, I know that was a UFO. I don't care what anybody has to say." Now, even though Chile claims the distinction of being the country with the most UFO sightings, as for America, the top 10 most recorded sightings, number 10 is North Carolina. That doesn't surprise me because it's on the coast. Number 9 is Illinois. Number 8 is Ohio. Number 7 is Arizona. There's a whole lot of desert out there, so that doesn't surprise me. But I actually would have thought it was should be a little bit more down the
You would think.
the line.
Yeah.
Number 6 is Pennsylvania. Number 5 is New York. I think the aliens kind of like to see what's happening
In the Big Apple.
in the Big Apple.
All the lights and shiny stuff.
Number 4 is Texas. That kind of does not surprise me.
It's like the biggest state in the area and in the country, so next to Alaska,
And
I guess.
it's got a huge coastline.
Yep.
Number 3 is Washington. Number 2 is Florida. Any guesses what number 1 is?
California?
California. What kind of surprised me a little bit is Alaska's not on the list, but I guess if you don't have a huge population to, make the claim that they just saw a UFO, then you wouldn't be on the list. So all these people, even celebrities, presidents, some of them even saying that they've seen a UFO.
So they've seen a UFO, but how many people claim to have seen an alien?
Well, Sammy did.
Sammy did.
They put something in his brain. John Lennon did.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think drugs might have been at play there, but I don't know. Maybe he didn't do drugs.
Well,
They were a thing back then.
Sammy Hagar?
No. Well, him too,
Drugs?
probably.
I think they're still a thing these days.
I'm talking about John Lennon, but
Oh, yeah, well, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, I have to say I was kind of surprised how many celebrities, but it's kind of funny how a lot of the celebrities are current. You understand?
yeah.
As opposed to celebrities. I mean, Jimmy Carter in the 70s, I mean, like I said, he always struck me as just a nice, genuine person.
Right.
And so if he said that was a UFO, I actually believe him. And I absolutely would not say that for every fucking president. All right. That is what we have for you tonight on to business. Facebook.
Facebook.
We have a Facebook page. And if you are curious or interested and like to join, send me a request.
Where?
Facebook page where the dark corners are. But in the meantime, if you have a topic or a serial killer or a UFO incident you'd like us to cover, send me an email at wherethedarkcornersare@gmail.com. Now, before we go, final thoughts, husband Jeff.
Aliens, I'm not so sure, but I think they exist. Like I said earlier, I just don't think they're what people think they are. Or like what the media portrays them as, big, bug-eyed, green guys. I don't think that's what they are.
But you haven't seen one for yourself.
I have not, but I do believe that with as big as the universe is, there's got to be something out there somewhere. We can't be the only planet that has. Maybe there's another planet with people on it.
Correct.
I
Absolutely.
don't. But that would be an alien. They would be aliens because
they're not from this planet.
they're not from this planet, so they would be aliens.
All right. So until next time, please remember, only the few can find the beauty in the darkness, which is why we hope to meet you where the dark corners are.